Okay, this is going to be our variables on both sides, day 2 notes. And this is for Mrs. Jennings' group. Mrs. Church is going to stop the video when I ask her to so that you can work out problems, and then when she feels like everyone is ready, she will start the video again and you can go through the problem with me to make sure that you did it correctly. Everyone in the class right now should be taking notes, and you should make sure that anytime you have a mistake or anything that you fix your work so that your work is correct in your notes so that you have something that can help you as you are doing the homework later. Okay, so problem number 1, this will be a little bit of a review from yesterday, is negative 6x plus 2 equals negative 9x minus 4. Okay, pause the video right now and I want you to try working that out. Okay, so hopefully you're ready to go over the problem. So yesterday I told you that I think it's very helpful to put a dotted line down the problem just so you can see the two sides of the equation. So the first thing you should have done on both sides was we're going to move the variables to the left, and I suggested yesterday that we always try to take the variables to the left for now. So if I want to get rid of the negative 9x on the right side, I have to do the opposite. I am going to add 9x to both sides. And remember, you can only add x's to x's, so that's why I put the 9x underneath the negative 6x. Okay, when you do that, the negative 9x and the positive 9x cancel out on the left, on the right. On the left-hand side, when you take negative 6x plus 9x, you get positive 3x, and then you need to bring down rest of the problem. So plus 2 equals negative 4. Okay, once we do that, we should have only one variable. Hopefully it's on the left side. And right now we have a two-step equation, which you all know how to solve. So the next thing you should have done was you should have subtracted 2 from both sides. And we get 3x equals negative 4 and negative 2 give you negative 6. And then the last step is divide both sides by 3. And you get x is equal to negative 2. Okay, now what I'd like you to do is just practice checking it like we talked about yesterday. Pause the video, Mrs. Church, and hopefully all the students will take a second just to practice checking. Okay, so this is what your check should actually look like. So the original problem was negative 6x plus 2 equals negative 9x minus 4. And the answer is negative 2, or at least we think it is. So wherever I see an x, I'm going to put in a negative 2. So negative 6, there's an x, so I'm going to put in a negative 2. Plus 2 equals negative 9, there's another x, so I'm going to plug in a negative 2. So this is what the problem looks like. So I'm going to work out each side by using the order of operations and see if it works. So on the left side, I'm going to do negative 6 times negative 2 first, which is positive 12, plus 2, that's 14. And on the right-hand side, I'm going to do negative 9 times negative 2, which is 18, minus 4, which is also 14. Since these two numbers are equal, that tells me I did the problem right, so I know this problem checks out. All right, moving on to problem number 2. Negative 4x minus 3 equals negative 2x. All right, pause the video so that you can try working out the problem. Okay, so the first thing you should have done on this problem was I would draw my dotted line down my equal sign just so I can divide the two sides of the problem. Remember, that's not something you have to do, but that's something I like to do. Now, what I'm going to do first on this problem is, because that's a negative 2x, and I want to get all my x's on the left-hand side, I'm going to add 2x to both sides. Now, this is where this one is a little different. We didn't do one like this yesterday. When I add 2x to this right side, it looks like everything cancels, but if I leave the problem like this and I go to the left side and I take negative 4x plus 2x, that gives you negative 2x, and I bring down the minus 3, well, I got to bring down my equal sign, and the equal sign can't ever move, so I can't move the equal sign. It's got to stay on the dotted line. There has to be something on the right-hand side of the equation. So if I have negative 2x plus 2x and it cancels out, and I need something there, then I'm going to put a 0 to represent at least there's a number there. Not 0x, just 0. Okay, I know that's a little confusing. If you have a question, have Mrs. Church pause the video right now and she can explain that a little bit more. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to add 3 to both sides. And you get negative 2x equals 0 plus 3 is 3. Divide both sides by negative 2. And we get x is just negative 3 over 2. Now, very quickly, I'm going to show you on the next screen, there's actually a different way you could do that problem if you didn't like that way. This next way, you might like it actually better. I'm going to call this the alternate way to do number 2. Negative 4x minus 3 equals negative 2x. Now, I've been telling you until today that we're always going to take the variables to the left. Well, guess what? You can actually take them to the right if you want to. So instead of adding 2x to both sides, what if I would have switched and added 4x to both sides instead? What this is going to do is it's going to take my variables to the right-hand side rather than the left. And what I get is negative 3 equals negative 2x plus 4x is 2x. And if you notice, I didn't have to worry about any kind of 0 or anything like that now. Now what I'm going to do is divide both sides by 2. And we get x is negative 3/2. So I get the same answer. It was just a matter of we took the variable to the right side rather than the left side, and that eliminated that whole 0 situation. Okay, next problem, number 3. 4n minus 3 equals 10 plus 4n. Now I will warn you, we did do a problem like this yesterday. This should look familiar. I will tell you it's a little special. So pause the video and try this. Okay, so what you should have done was, I'm going to put my dotted line down the middle. I'm going to subtract 4n from both sides. And this is one of those situations where if I subtract 4n from both sides, all of my n's are going to cancel out. I have no n's left. They're all gone. So I end up with negative 3 on the left and 10 on the right. And I don't believe negative 3 equals 10. So I know this is one of those special answers. When the two numbers are not equal, we get no solutions. Now, just to review, had that turned out with two numbers that equal each other, such as, let's say, negative 3 equals negative 3, that would have been infinitely many solutions. So that's just kind of a little review from yesterday. Again, if you have a question about that, I'm sure if you stop the video, Mrs. Church can explain that a little bit more. Number 4. Now we're going to add some fractions in our problem. 1/4 x plus 6 equals negative 7/4 x minus 3. Okay, now instead of stopping the video and doing this one by yourself, I think it would be best maybe if we do this first one together, because this is the first time you've actually had a fraction in one of these. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put a dotted line down the middle of our problem. And if I want to move the variables to the left side and I have a negative 7/4, the opposite of negative 7/4 is I'm going to add 7/4 x to both sides. So I'm doing the same thing, I just have to deal with these fractions. So when I do that, on the right side, negative 7/4 plus 7/4 cancels out. On the left side, I get 1/4 plus 7/4 is 8/4 x. Bring down my plus 6 equals -3. Now, I'm sure some of you right now are going, well, 8/4 is 2x. Well, if you want to do that, that's fine, but let's suppose you didn't notice that that was going to reduce to 2x. So I'm just going to keep going. So I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides. And we get 8/4x equals -3 minus 6, -9. Okay? And let's suppose you still don't catch that 8/4 reduces to 2. Well, now all we have to do is multiply both sides by the reciprocal, 4/8. And if we do that, on the left side, everything cancels. And we get x equals, well, if I put 9/1 times 4/8, nothing simplifies. So when I multiply across, I get -36/8. Now hopefully at this point you're going to recognize that, oh, 36 and 8 are both divisible by 4. So in this problem, my final answer is x equals 36 divided by 4 is 9. So on the top I have -9, and on the bottom 8 divided by 4 is 2. Okay, again, if you want Mrs. Church to pause the video because you have a question, just have her pause it right now and then go on to the next one when you're ready. Okay, number 5. 2 minus 3/2 x equals 2/3 x minus 9. Okay? Again, I think it's probably best if we actually do this problem together, just because now we've got uncommon denominators, so that may cause a little bit of trouble. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my little dotted line down the middle of my problem. Okay, now, how am I going to get rid of a positive 2/3 on this right side? Well, the opposite of positive 2/3 is I'm going to minus 2/3 x from both sides. And remember, I'm going to put it right underneath the other x. So on the right-hand side, 2/3 minus 2/3 is going to cancel. Now on the left side, I cannot take 3/2 minus 2/3 if I don't have common denominators. So I've got to think about, well, 3/2 and 2/3, common denominator would be 6. So if I changed these to, let's make this a 6. 2 times 3 is 6, so 3 times 3 is 9. So this new fraction is -9/6. And then the 2/3 would become 4/6. So now I've got -9/6 minus 4/6. Now some of you probably would rather look at that like this, -9/6 minus 4/6. Well, when I do integers, if I add the opposite, oops, I just realized I wrote a 3 instead of a 6, I apologize. When I take -9/6 plus -4/6, that's going to be all negative, so that's going to give you -13/6 x. And then, don't forget, you got to bring down that 2. We haven't used it yet. Equals, on the right side, I still have a -9. So now we've got 2 minus 13x equals -9. Okay? So I've got to get rid of this 2 out front. This is a positive 2, so I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. And we come up with -13/6 equals -9 minus 2 is -11. So we have -13/6 equals -11. So again, the only thing that makes this problem pretty ugly is the whole denominators that aren't the same. So what are we going to do now? Get rid of the fraction by multiplying by the reciprocal, 6 over -13 on both sides. On the left side, everything cancels, and we get x equals. On the right side, you need to make sure you notice that we have a negative here and a negative here. That makes a positive. 11 times 6 on top is 66. And on the bottom, 1 times 13 is 13. So because that doesn't reduce, my final answer is 66 thirteenths. Okay, so we've done 5 more problems. So between yesterday and today, you should have plenty of examples of variables on both sides. So hopefully those notes helped. What you're going to do now is I would keep your notes out. Mrs. Church is going to hand out the homework. And I think if there's time, she's even going to help you do a couple of them together. You guys get to choose. I would suggest maybe having her help you with the fraction problems. And then I will see you tomorrow. Please make sure your homework worksheet number 2 is due tomorrow, and be ready to ask questions or ask for help tomorrow on anything that you need. See you tomorrow. Have a good day.